Right, so the other half of the Enterprise C double project is no longer going to be an Enterprise C, the Cadet series model. There's nothing particularly wrong with it. It's fine for what it is. As you know, the decals are atrocious, so I was going to paint it much like I am doing the 1400 scale model. However, when I attempted to use the curved masking tape, I found that extremely difficult to use on this size saucer, simply because of the small tight circles that you'd have to mask off. And instead, what I attempted to use, for the first time I might add, was this stuff, Micro Mask. Now, I've had a look around and I've seen a couple of video tutorials, not much to be honest, and liquid masking stuff doesn't seem to be that popular from what I can tell. I think everyone's still into the old-fashioned tape, scissors, knife kind of method, which works fine, and works fine for me. I applied this at various places here. You can still see the remnants of some of it on there. I really didn't like the way it looked. I didn't like the way it worked. It didn't want to behave. It didn't go on very easily. And it certainly wasn't easy to remove. I've just spent the past 10-15 minutes giving this a really good scrub with warm soapy water and a fairly stiff brush. And if that's all it takes to remove what was a reasonably thin coating, imagine a slightly thicker coating with paint over the top. Yeah, so I don't think I'm going to be using this stuff again anytime soon. I'll just put it back in the box, and at some point I'll probably experiment with it, sorry, because I've got it, so I might as well use it. But it's not what I need for this project. Anyway, so that aside, decided to go ahead with the Orion class as it's known. This is an odd little sort of nebula style kit. I can't remember who the manufacturer is. All I know, I think I've seen this for sale on a website somewhere. It might be Cult TV Man Shop or one of the others, one of the American ones anyway. But I managed to nab this off of eBay at random one day. Quite glad I did, because I like the unusual kind of kit bash bits and pieces you can get out there. So this is going to be appropriated to this. So I'm using the saucer from the Enterprise C kit. I haven't pulled the nacelles off the secondary hull yet. I might get some alternative nacelles, maybe. We'll see how far the hobby budget stretches. This quite simply goes on here. Obviously you've got the much shorter neck, like the Nebula, like that. So it sits kind of at this sort of squished angle. See if I can show that off a bit better. Yeah, so you've got that going on. You see that? Not very easily. And then you've got this pod on here, which will sit over there, so you end up with a kind of pseudo nebula thing, and the nacelles come under here. So what I'm going to do, I've already started going through the good old-fashioned sand putty prime kind of thing. Certainly wasn't a bad casting. A few gaps to deal with. The secondary hull itself is actually fantastic. The pylons are a little bit blotchy, and this kind of central pylon here is a little bit suspect in places, but it's nothing I can't manage. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to crack out the masking tape and start applying bits and pieces to this to create a design similar to the one you see on the Enterprise C. Not exactly the same, so sort of, you know, bits and pieces chopped out here and there. Get that masked up and then start spraying the colours down as I do the 1400C, and this will become the Orion class. What's the name? It came with some decals with a ship name I don't recognise. Here they are. The USS Faris, NCC 54601. I'm assuming that's completely made up. MMI 1727. I'm assuming that's some sort of manufacturer's number. Here's the box. Millennium Models International. Copyright 2007, made in Canada. Honestly, I don't know who these guys are. I've seen a few other sort of similar kind of kits somewhere. I can't remember where. But it's quite nicely made, and it's quite unusual. So I'm looking forward to putting this together and having another little odd ship in my ever-growing 1250 scale fleet. So I'm going to get on with masking. I'll be right back with that. Right, here's a quick update on the Enterprise C, the 1400 project. I've started masking it and spraying it and painting it and all that nonsense. There comes a point where you have to just call it quits with the sanding and filling and filing and putty work and all that stuff, especially when your pylons are warping for no obvious reason, no pun intended, and cracking, and you just can't get those seams to disappear because everything moves as soon as you think you've got it right. So, yeah, there's going to be cracks and gaps, but it feels unavoidable at this point. I could carry on for hours and hours and hours on end and never finish this, or I could just get on with it and say, you know what, it's part of the charm of the model. It's going to be battle damaged, it's going to be weathered, it's all part of it. So here we are, bit of masking tape, started outlining the areas to save, so this whole section is going to be that sort of lighter blue. Most of this is all going to get masked off. The most awkward part to do is going to be, there's this kind of pinstriping that goes on around the nacelles. Let me grab the little instruction thing. Yeah. You have a quick look on here. There's this pinstriping that sort of goes up and down the nacelles like that. So masking that off is going to be fun. And also masking the little ribs along the top of the nacelles, these ones here, because they have to remain the white colour. That's going to be entertaining. But you know, a bit of this and a bit of this, and we can probably accomplish anything. I'm going to get on with that, and I'll see you in a second. So as you can see here, we've moved on to the next stage. I'm applying these little masks, just bits of cut masking tape onto these strips across the top of the nacelles here, so that the dark blue coat can put, and that will fill in these sections here. The intermediate blue has gone on. I'm going to have to go back and sort out a few places where it's gone where it shouldn't. But things are moving along fairly nicely. Depending on how things go, I should get this all masked off and the darker blue colour sprayed within the next few hours this afternoon. Hopefully then I can move on to painting the small details like the phasers and the lifeboats and applying decals. Obviously first of all I have to apply the normal decals like the various insignias and badges and names and what have you, and then after that move on to the battle damage stuff. So we'll see how we get on. I'm hoping to at least get to the stage where I'm ready to apply all the decals and the painting is for the best part done by this evening. It really depends because it's quite dark and cloudy and gloomy and it's cold, which isn't the best weather for sitting and doing fine delicate things with your hands for long periods of time. Let's see what the next update is. Cool, so here we are in a whole world of masking tape. I've got this guy all masked up again. Let me get that in the shot. Let's move this a little bit. Woo. Yeah, there he is. Covering masking tape yet again, ready for the dark blue, and I've done much the same with the saucer for the Orion class. Bit of a variation on the design. Let's go and spray this up and see what happens. Alright, here we go, moment of truth. Start taking this off and see what we've got. This is quite fun. This is almost like unwrapping a present. And then waiting for the bitter disappointment as you see all the lines bleeding through. Oh, well, that's not too bad. That's not too bad. Keep up there. Yeah. Stick your fingers, stick your fingers. So obviously this is the underside, and you can see a far more recognisable ambassador class pattern going on. On the top side it's a little bit different. Not much, but enough to be distinguished from the Enterprise C and the normal thing you see on the ambassador class ships, like the Zukov and the Yamaguchi and all that stuff. A little bit wiggly around here, and obviously that's where the neck joins the rest of the ship. Let's get these side bits off. See how well this has worked on top, because obviously that's the money shot, I suppose you could say. This is what everyone's going to be looking at. They're not really going to look at the underneath of the ship very often, if ever. Yeah, a little bit of seepage around those edges, but all in all, not bad really. Tell you what, I'm quite envious, quite in awe of people who spend forever with those vinyl masks, applying all those little bits for the Aztec patterns. I have actually got a couple of sets of the Aztec dummies masks, one for the 1/1000 scale Reliant, which is another one that's just sat in a box waiting to get painted, and one for the Enterprise B, the Excelsior kit, which is one of my favourite ships. I've been waiting and waiting to build that model. I mean, I built it plenty of times, but I've got one specifically with various bits and pieces. I've got the transparent parts from Don's Light and Magic, and I've had on order for 2 years, possibly 3 or more. I really can't tell anymore. A few conversion pieces from Modular Models. Yeah, this sort of garage kit guy who makes some really quite nice looking, quite unusual bits and pieces for 1000 scale ships. But he's a bit slow, and he's not the king of customer service either, which is a shame. But eventually those pieces will turn up. There's no point trying to cancel and get the money back. I'll just have to sit and wait. But when they do, that's going to be a fun project. Anyway, getting back to this, that's not too bad, and it's a different enough design. It's a bit wonky around here. I'll have to go back and sort these sections out. Yeah, but that's a fairly quick fix. Cool. Right, that's you. Yeah, the big mamma jamma. So a quick look at this. Don't think I'm going to untape the whole thing on video because it's a bit big, a bit cumbersome. There's a couple of pieces I've missed and we'll have to go back and redo, and that's the little sort of squares and things around here on the pylons. But if I get this front section off, we should be able to see the 3 colours and how they look together. Sticky. It's all kinds of sticky. Gonna have to go back and sort out that little bit in the very top of the neck. Layer after layer after layer of masking tape. Let's try and get this bit off here. It's well and truly stuck down. Come on, off you come, then we can see those 3 colours next to each other. It doesn't come out too badly. Oh, I've had a little bit of a splotch there where I haven't masked that properly. See, that bit in there. Yeah, gonna have to sort that out. Overall though, it's looking fairly decent. Right, I'm going to carry on untaping this, and then we'll have a closer look at the damage and see what bits we have to fix before we get on to the rest of the painting and detailing. Well, there it is. There's the fruits of my labour. Masks of Nyarlathotep. Enough to drive anyone insane. No, get rid of that. In the bin. This is what we've got. Yeah, it's not too bad. I've got to admit, for a self-taught amateur, just having a go with some tape and some rattle cans, It's not that bad of a result, is it? There's obviously some paint bleed and some blotchiness. I've actually had some paint come off there, so I have to sort that out. I've still got to do these little squares along here, you know, these ones, those bits there, and I want to add more of this striping on the nacelles. But that's all fairly easy to do, and it's much easier to see it now I've taken all the tape off. I can sort of go in and specifically mask just a little area, put something over the top, don't have to tape the whole thing up, and clean that up. Yeah, so it's actually starting to come together after spending God knows how long agonising over this damn kit. And I remember saying at the beginning that this is a fairly easy kit to build. Well, yes it is, in terms of simplicity of parts count and the way that the pieces are put together and go together, compared to, say, the neck on the Enterprise D or the neck on the Enterprise B, or all the weird bits that go together on the E. All these different ships have all sorts of funny little bits and pieces that are quite finicky. This one, it's just like bish bash bosh, 2 pieces there, 2 pieces there, bang bang bang, it's done. That doesn't mean it's not difficult in terms of sorting out the seams. This pylon assembly just would not stay straight and keeps warping and cracking no matter what I do to it. I love this model kit. I think it's great. I want to get more of them. I want to get another one and paint it. I want to get hold of the clear one. I want to do a kit bash of something strange. And obviously every time you build a model you get to know it better. You get to learn how it works. So when I eventually do another one, which I'm sure I will at some point, it'll be, you know, the next step up and then the next step up. Just because I've got it here, here's the saucer. Last time we saw it, I was putting the battle damage decals on and started blending them in. That's just the decals applied as they come with this awful white outline. I'm not sure why that. And here's the decals with just a little bit of dry brushing over the top. And then I've got some weathering powders that I've used on wargame miniatures and things. I'm going to have weathering powders and all sorts. So it's not going to be, you know, jet black and filthy, but it's going to look like it's barely survived the Battle of Narendra 3, which is exactly what happened. So let me just carefully plug this into this and we can get an idea of how the ship's looking. Just careful of those wires. You just go in there. Right, so there's the 2 parts slotted together. And I think you'll admit the colours are quite nice. It's not the over-the-top garish blue, but it's blue enough to be different. Yeah, I'm really pleased with the results I've got just by using bits of masking tape and rattle cans. I'm looking forward to cracking on with this. Obviously I'm going to have to do the same, touching up some of the areas on this and figure out the slightly alternative paint scheme for the Orion class body. I also need to decide on the nacelles for that. I could rip off the nacelles from the standard Ambassador class, but there are a few resin alternatives out there, slightly different shapes. Don't know, maybe. But anyway, there's that. There's the Enterprise C project, part 1 and part 2. That's now not an Enterprise C. Where they stand currently. Next time I put up a video, hopefully I'll have corrected the paint mistakes, added a few more details, and be well and truly into the decaling on the secondary hull, which would be nice. Then the only other thing to consider is a base for it. I always leave the base to last, and if anything, it's probably one of the most important parts, because otherwise you end up with a bunch of finished models that just sit around doing that, and that's no good, is it? So I need to figure that out as well. Okay guys, thanks a lot. See you out there. Have a good one.